After 60, your body is fighting wars you can't see. Inflammation eating away at your joints. Bones quietly thinning while you sleep. Cholesterol building up inside arteries that used to be clean. Blood sugar spiking and crashing like it never did before. And a brain that some mornings feels just a little slower than it used to. And here's what happens. You go to the doctor. And the doctor gives you a pill for the inflammation, a different pill for the bones, another one for the cholesterol, another for the blood sugar, maybe something for the brain fog too. 5 problems, 5 prescriptions, 5 bottles lined up on the counter next to your morning coffee. But what if I told you that over 3,000 years ago, God planted the answer to every single one of those problems in a single verse of Scripture? Not 5 prescriptions, 5 foods, all in one sentence. No side effects, no pharmacy, no copay. Just food from the ground, chosen by the same God who designed the body that needs them. And the craziest part, researchers at Harvard, UCLA, the Mayo Clinic, they are just now publishing clinical trials that confirm what that verse has been saying since Moses was alive. They think they're discovering something new. They're not. They're catching up. Let's start with the one food that attacks the root cause of almost every disease that develops after 60. And I mean the root, not the symptoms, the actual engine underneath all of it. Food 1. Pomegranate, the fruit that fights aging at the cellular level. There's a reason this fruit was carved into the pillars of Solomon's temple. 200 pomegranates sculpted into the most sacred building in Israel's history. That was not decoration. In a culture where every design element carried theological weight, where nothing in the temple was arbitrary, they chose this fruit. And when you understand what it does inside the human body, you start to understand why. After 60, your body enters a state that scientists now call inflammaging. That's not a metaphor. It's a clinical term. It means chronic low-grade inflammation that builds up year after year, quietly damaging your heart, your brain, your joints, your blood vessels. You don't feel it happening. There's no pain, no swelling, nothing obvious. But it's the engine behind heart disease, behind Alzheimer's, behind arthritis, behind diabetes, behind almost everything that terrifies you about getting older. And in 2025, a clinical trial at Manchester Metropolitan University studied adults aged 55 to 70 and gave them pomegranate extract for 12 weeks. Blood pressure dropped by over 5 points. Inflammatory markers, the ones that drive all those diseases, went down significantly. The researchers published their conclusion and used a phrase you almost never see in medical journals. They called pomegranate a cost-effective, non-pharmacological strategy to promote healthy aging. UCLA has been studying this fruit for almost 20 years. They found that when you eat a pomegranate, compounds called elagitannins travel to your colon, where your gut bacteria transform them into molecules called urolithins. And these urolithins travel everywhere. They reduce age-related decline. They halt inflammation. They protect your heart from dysfunction. A separate study found that pomegranate juice preserves memory in older adults by reducing oxidative stress in the brain. The same brain fog you've been blaming on age might actually be inflammation that a single fruit could help fight. A study with men over 60 found that just 2 glasses of pomegranate juice daily for 15 days reduced C-reactive protein, one of the most important markers of systemic inflammation and lowered muscle damage indicators. 15 days. Not months, not years. 2 weeks of drinking juice from a fruit that grew on the hills of ancient Israel. 3,000 years ago, this fruit was carved into the house of God. Today, it's being studied in the most advanced research hospitals on earth. And they keep arriving at the same conclusion. The ancients weren't decorating. They were telling us something. Now, let's talk about something most people over 60 don't think about until it's too late. And by then, it's usually because something broke. Your bones. Food 2. Figs, the ancient bone shield. Here's something that breaks my heart. Every year, millions of people over 60 fall. And for too many of them, that fall changes everything. A broken hip, a fractured wrist, weeks in bed, months of recovery. Sometimes they never fully come back. And the reason isn't the fall. The reason is that the bones weren't strong enough to survive it. After age 50, your body breaks down bone faster than it can rebuild. For women after menopause, it accelerates dramatically. By the time most people think about their bones, the damage has been happening for years. And here's what almost nobody knows. Figs contain one of the rarest nutrient combinations found in any natural food. They deliver both calcium and vitamin K in the same bite. And that matters enormously, because calcium is the raw material your bones are made of. But without vitamin K, your body literally cannot direct that calcium into your bone matrix. It just floats around in your blood, doing nothing. Vitamin K activates a protein called osteocalcin that grabs calcium from the blood and locks it into your bones. 2 dried figs give you about 65 milligrams of calcium, along with the vitamin K to actually use it, plus magnesium, potassium, and phosphorus. The full mineral team your skeleton is begging for. Harvard identified dried figs as one of 9 surprising foods that protect bone density. The Cleveland Clinic confirmed that figs feed beneficial gut bacteria, reduce inflammation, and improve immune function. And there's a bonus that matters more than most people realize. After 60. Figs are one of the most effective natural remedies for constipation. A clinical study of 150 people with irritable bowel syndrome found that eating dried figs twice daily significantly improved regularity. After 60, digestive problems aren't just uncomfortable. They affect how well you absorb nutrients, how your medications work, and honestly, how well you live. The fig tree is one of the first plants mentioned in the Bible and one of the last. Jesus cursed a fig tree that bore no fruit. He told parables about fig trees. When Adam and Eve needed covering, they reached for fig leaves. This tree keeps showing up across thousands of years of Scripture. And it turns out it was protecting bones, feeding guts, and reducing inflammation the entire time. Food 3. Barley, the cholesterol killer, that big pharma can't patent. And I want to be honest about something. Barley is not glamorous. It never was. In the ancient world, it was the grain of soldiers, sailors, and common laborers. The people who couldn't afford wheat ate barley. When Jesus fed 5,000 people with loaves and fish, those loaves were barley. This was the bread of the everyday person, the ordinary person, the person nobody wrote songs about. And it turns out the everyday person was eating one of the most heart-protective grains ever studied. Barley contains the highest concentration of a fiber called beta-glucan found in any grain on Earth. And beta-glucan is not some minor nutritional footnote. The FDA, the actual United States Food and Drug Administration, has formally recognized that eating 3 grams or more of barley beta-glucan daily reduces the risk of heart disease. That's not a suggestion. That's an official health claim on a federal level. Here's what beta-glucan does. When you eat it, it forms a gel inside your digestive tract that physically binds to cholesterol and carries it out of your body before it can build up in your arteries. A meta-analysis of 8 clinical trials confirmed that barley significantly lowers total cholesterol, LDL cholesterol, and triglycerides. But here's where it gets really interesting for anyone over 60 dealing with blood sugar. A study of overweight women found that after eating barley, their blood sugar and insulin levels dropped by 59 to 65%. Oats, which everyone considers the gold standard for heart-healthy grains, only managed 29 to 36%. Barley nearly doubled the performance of oats. Another study showed that men who ate barley at dinner had 30% better insulin sensitivity the following morning at breakfast. Not during the meal. The next day. The barley was still working while they slept. USDA researchers found that barley-based diets reduced blood pressure, with the strongest effects in postmenopausal women. Exactly the population most at risk. Cholesterol, blood sugar, blood pressure, insulin resistance. One grain, the cheapest grain on the shelf, the one nobody talks about, the one no influencer is promoting, the one with no fancy packaging and no celebrity endorsement. And it addresses all 4 of the things your cardiologist is most worried about. The people who ate barley as their daily staple were not settling for second best. They were eating something that modern nutritional science keeps returning to with increasing admiration. And they didn't need a study to tell them. They just knew a man could eat barley bread at dawn and work the fields until the sun was directly overhead without collapsing. The bread worked. The grain worked. It always did. Now, there's one verse in the Bible where God describes the land He prepared for Israel. Just one. And in that single verse He lists exactly 7 foods. Deuteronomy 8:8. A land of wheat and barley, of vines and fig trees and pomegranates, a land of olive oil and honey. Read that again. Pomegranate, fighting the inflammation that causes every major disease after 60. Fig, protecting the bones your body is losing every single day. Barley, lowering the cholesterol and blood sugar that threaten your heart. All 3 of them sitting in one verse, written over 3,000 years ago. These were not random crops that happened to grow in the region. This was a land designed by God, planted with intention, given to a people He was promising to protect. And we're only halfway through that verse. Let's keep going. Food 4. Grapes, the heart medicine, hiding in plain sight. In the 1980s, scientists noticed something they could not explain. The French ate more saturated fat than almost anyone in the Western world. Butter, cheese, cream, rich food at every meal. And yet, they had dramatically fewer heart attacks than Americans. They called it the French paradox. It made no sense, until they looked at what the French were drinking, red wine, and specifically a compound in the skin of dark grapes called resveratrol. Resveratrol does something remarkable inside the aging body. According to the Mayo Clinic, it may help prevent damage to blood vessels, reduce LDL cholesterol, and prevent the blood clots that cause heart attacks and strokes. But the discovery that genuinely stunned the research community came from longevity studies. Resveratrol activates a protein called SIRT1, one of the body's master longevity regulators. It also activates SIRT3, SIRT4, and a family of proteins called FOXOs, all of which are directly linked to slowing age-related cardiovascular decline. A 2019 study from King's College London found that people who consumed wine from grapes had significantly greater gut microbiota diversity. And after 60, the diversity of your gut bacteria is one of the single strongest predictors of overall health. A diverse gut means better immunity, less inflammation, better nutrient absorption, and even better mental health. And you don't need wine to get these benefits. Whole grapes, grape juice, even raisins contain resveratrol. The point was never the alcohol. It was the grape, the vine. The second food God placed in that promised land. Food 5. Dates, the energy. Your aging muscles are starving for. And finally, the last food in that verse. Honey. But here's something most people don't realize. The Hebrew word for honey in Deuteronomy 8:8, many biblical scholars believe it refers not only to bee honey, but to date honey, a thick, sweet syrup made from dates. Dates were one of the most important calorie sources in the entire ancient Near East. And for anyone over 60, dates solve a problem that most people don't even know they have: potassium deficiency. After 60, potassium levels naturally decline, and when potassium drops, muscles weaken. Fatigue sets in. Cramps come out of nowhere. Your heartbeat becomes irregular. Most people blame aging, but in many cases it's simply a nutritional gap that nobody tested for. Dates are one of the richest natural sources of potassium on Earth. A single serving provides roughly 20% of what you need daily. They also deliver magnesium, which works alongside potassium to regulate muscle contractions and nerve signals. The fiber in dates feeds beneficial gut bacteria, improving digestion and nutrient absorption. Studies found that daily date consumption significantly improved bowel regularity, a serious quality of life issue that most people over 60 deal with quietly and never talk about. For the elderly in ancient Israel, dates were not a treat. They were survival food, dense, portable energy that kept the body functioning in brutal desert conditions. Modern nutrition science now confirms that every nutrient in a date addresses a specific vulnerability of the aging body. Muscles, energy, gut, heart rhythm, all from one food you can hold in the palm of your hand. 5 foods, 5 wars your body fights after 60. Pomegranate for the inflammation nobody can see. Figs for the bones quietly disappearing. Barley for the cholesterol and blood sugar creeping higher every year. Grapes for the heart that's carried you this far. Dates for the muscles and the gut that keep everything running. All 5 of them in one verse. Deuteronomy 8:8. God did not write a medical textbook. He planted a garden. And inside that garden was everything the aging human body would ever need. 3,000 years before Harvard, before the Mayo Clinic, before the FDA, before